Hello guys, today the video is about sewage treatment plant. Basically, the sewage treatment plant that is used on board is used on board for treating sewage before they are discharged. So here is a typical arrangement of a system that is used on board the vessel. The sewage that is not treated, it enters this plant from here. There is a coarse mesh. From here, as it enters, the floating particles, it accumulates here, and the particles that are so denser accumulates here. Here what happens is this compartment makes sure that the sewage that comes from here, and it doesn't contain the particle that cannot be entrained with water, because in this further settling and aerating and chlorinating chambers, if the particle that cannot be entrained, if the particle they're not about to be entrained with water, these particles can cause the system to fail, so that the particles that cannot be entrained because of their being so not denser, it accumulates here. The particles that cannot be entrained because the particles being that so denser, it accumulates here. And this is how the particles that can be entrained makes sure the way back into the forward into the aeration chamber. So here it is a damper, and it locates up in the uppermost position in the accumulation tanker, the primary tanker, and it makes way into the aeration chamber. And there you can see an air blower. An air blower, it is to inject air to increase the reproduction of the E. coli bacteria that lives in your intestine, and also which does the reaction here. And once the sewage is treated by the E. coli bacteria, the oxygen that is injected by this air blower causes a higher oxygen representation in this chamber, so that eventually it causes a higher activity of E. coli bacteria, and then it makes its way into the settling tank. The treated sewage from the aeration chamber makes way into settling tank, and also still there are some sludge particles remain in that, so that the sludge particles accumulate here, and that sludge particles are then back returned into the aeration chamber. This method used for returning back what is accumulated in the settling tank into the aeration chamber is called as this airlift. Airlift is the way that is normally used in sewage treatment plant. A bubbling air causes the sludge particles that accumulate here to be lifted and returned back to the aeration chamber. This same way is used in some sewage treatment plants to lift the sewage particles that accumulates here in the surface. It is called as the surface return, and here it is called as the sludge return, which is shown here is the sludge return. And here what is in the settling tank, as it is settled, it overflows into the chlorinated chamber. Chlorinated chamber is where the sewage is treated, and it is ensured then there is no bacteria left before the sewage is discharged overboard. The sewage that is discharged overboard needs to be ensured that there is no bacteria in that, because otherwise it might cause what lives in the sea, the planktons, algae and other marine lives. the bacteria that might cause their life, and also marine environment. And there's a discharge pump, there's a high level float, there's a low level float, and these floats give signals to this pump to be turned on and turned off where it is necessary. Once the level reaches the high level float, the pump turns on itself, and once this level reaches to the low level float, the pump turns off itself, so that this pump ensures the level remains in between these high level float and this low level float. And also there is an alarm which is not drawn here, right at the place here in the mouse pointer. There is that alarm ensures if these high level float and low level float and this pump, if this system doesn't work, there is no way of discharging sewage into sea. And also that causes this level to rise up and raise an alarm. That alarm is sounded in the engine control room, so that we know, as marine engineers and works, we know that something has gone wrong with the system, so that we can give a remedy to the system. What is the valve that is normally left open is this valve. There are 4 valves. Here it is only 3 valves are drawn, but there are 4 valves for these compartments. Normally the valve that is left open is this valve, and the, the valve that comes from this tank, and the valve that comes from this tank, and the valve that comes from these tanks remain closed. And these valves are used only when the sewage treatment plant is normally washed or cleaned. That those valves are used only for cleaning purposes. This valve is normally used when the sewage plant is in its normal operation. And also there are vents here, here, and here. These sewage, they come directly from urinals and toilets. What comes from washrooms and washing closets and hand wash basins, they make their way directly into the chlorinator chamber. And if we talk about this discharge, the discharge, it can either go overboard or it can go into accumulation tank, which is called normally as a retention tank. So if the fourth state or the flag state, or if there is restricted waters, or for any reason, if the sewage that cannot be discharged into sea, we have valves that can be opened to the retention tank, so that the treated sewage goes back to the retention tank. Once we come to deep seas, we can discharge them. And there are some regulations, and also there's a terminology in this. So next video I'm going to do about the maritime laws and regulations that comes with the sewage treatment plant, especially in Mapol. And for today that's enough. So you guys make sure that you guys subscribe, and have a good day. See you.